Hi, how are you doing? Welcome. My name is Chris Martin. I'm head of policy innovation at Access Partnership. We're a global tech policy and regulatory consulting firm. So pleased to be here with all of you and with our partners at the Digital Cooperation Organization. Perhaps we could get started with, I think, a little bit of an acknowledgement that artificial intelligence is no longer really a technical challenge. It's a societal one. Every decision that AI systems make, what they power, are going to impact and shape our lives, how we work, and how we interact. And the stakes are monumental. They demand that we get this right, and at the same time, key questions remain. Most especially, how do we ensure that AI is both a powerful tool, but also ethical, responsible, and human-centric? Today, we stand at a pivotal moment. Policymakers, technologists, and civil society are coming together to navigate the complex intersection of innovation and ethics. And together, we need to develop frameworks that both anticipate the risks inherent in these systems, but also seize the transformative potential of AI for global good. Now, this session isn't just about policies. It's about principles in action, defining who we are, what we as a global community value, and how we protect those values, especially in the face of rapid change. I invite you to take this opportunity to explore these possibilities with us, to ask some hard questions, and build pathways to ensure that AI serves humanity and not the other way around. With that, please let me introduce my colleague, Mr. Ahmed Binder from the Digital Cooperation Organization.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. I see a lot of faces from all around the world, and it is really fortunate for us to be able to gather you all here together and showcase some of our work, actually tell you who we are as Digital Cooperation Organization, and discuss some of the work that we are doing and seek your inputs. So we really meant to have this a very interactive discussion, a roundtable session to say, let's see how we can convert this into a roundtable discussion going forward. So my name is Ahmed Bhinder, and I represent the Digital Cooperation Organization. We are an intergovernmental organization. If we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, no worries. Okay, then I'll start. I'll continue. So we are represented by the ministers of digital economy and ICT for the 16 member states who we represent, and the member states come from, as you would see, from the Middle East, from Europe, from Africa, to South Asia, and we are very rapidly expanding. We have a whole network of private sector partners that we call observers, as you would see in other intergovernmental organizations. And we have over 40 observers who are already with us now since our existence, which is we are quite young. So we started we came into conception from end of 2020. So we're in our fourth year. So with a bit of our organization, what DCO is and how it works. This year we started was to look at the ethical AI, ethical governance of AI. And we thought that while a lot of work is being done on ethical and responsible AI governance, we wanted to look at it from a human rights perspective. So we identified which human rights are most impacted by the artificial intelligence, and then we reviewed across our membership and across the globe how does AI policies and regulation and governance intersects with those human rights, and what needs to be done to ensure that we have a human rights protective ethical AI governance approach. There are a couple of reports that we are going to publish on that, and we are developing a policy tool, which will be the crux of our discussion today. We have developed a framework on the human rights risks associated to AI. What are the ethical principles that need to be taken care of? And then the tool is going to provide our member states and beyond and a mechanism where we can. Yeah, can you hear me all right? Okay, sorry. So we'll provide with the AI system developers or deployers with a tool where they can assess the systems compliance per se or their closeness to the human rights or ethical principles, and then the tool is going to recommend improvements in the systems. So again, I don't want to kill it. In my opening remarks, we have our colleagues from Access Partnership who we are developing this tool together with. So I will give it back to Chris to take us through this, and I would look forward to all your inputs into the discussions today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ahmad. Well, everyone, I'll walk through, I think, a little bit of this presentation here on what DCO's view is on ethical AI governance, and then my colleague Matt Sharp will walk us through the tool itself. And as Ahmed previewed, then we'll kind of break out to do a little bit of scenarios and get a chance to play with the tool yourselves. I think the first question, why is this important for DCO? Well, it's a big deal, I think, everywhere. And DCO, working with members and other stakeholders, wants to really be an active member at the forefront of this debate. So they felt that this tool is a great way to get that moving. So these are two of the objectives to kind of start. And then the tool can be seen as one way to instill and align alignment and interoperability between regulatory frameworks. I think we all recognize there's a real wide divergence right now of AI readiness and regulatory approach. And then once you start to see that, actually proposing impactful, actionable initiatives is critical. DCO feels that's important. And lastly, facilitating interactive dialogues like the one we're here today to have. So a bit deeper on what does a human rights approach look like in AI governance for DCO? Well, it starts with 4 things. First, looking to prioritize protection and promotion of human rights. The name of the session, that's why we're here. To design and uphold human dignity, privacy, equity, and freedom from discrimination. Third, to create systems that are transparent, accountable, that are inclusive, and ones that don't exacerbate inequalities. And lastly, to ensure advancement and contribute to the common good while mitigating all the potential harms I think we're starting to see evolve with AI. So the toolkit that we're developing will take a human rights-centered approach across 4 different areas. Again, looking at inclusive design and ensuring that there's participation from diverse communities, especially marginalized ones. It will look to integrate human rights principles like dignity, equality, non-discrimination, privacy at each stage of the AI lifecycle. It will seek to recommend the use of human rights impact assessments as a way to get in front of AI deployments and ensure that you mitigate those potential problems early. And then lastly, promote transparency and looking at disclosure of how AI makes its decisions. Taking a little bit of a step back and I think illustrating the moment we're in is that AI diffusion is pretty uneven across the world. This looks at the market for AI concentrated across Asia Pacific and North America and Europe to a greater degree, but still a lot of opportunity for growth in the Middle East and North Africa, where currently a lot of DCO member states reside. So this is an important moment to get involved at an early stage. On the governance side, DCO sees really 7 different areas where global best practice can be leveraged to advance AI governance. The first looks at institutional mechanisms. Ultimately, these involve how do nation states govern artificial intelligence within their jurisdictions. Do they develop an AI regulator? Do they do it sector by sector? These are questions that are live at the moment across every country. How are they going to plan for that at the government level? Is there an AI strategy or an AI policy that helps dictate the different stages? And then beyond AI specifically, where are they in policy readiness? Cybersecurity frameworks, privacy frameworks, intellectual property. There's a whole range of different areas that impact AI and are important to consider. And then shifting beyond just the government specific places, but how do you build an innovation ecosystem? How can, on the government side, can you foster investment and entrepreneurship in AI, but also how do you build a culture around that? And how do you do that in a way that also brings in that diversity of participants and voices? Because that's really critical to getting it right. The sixth area, is future-proofing the population. And by this we mean getting a population ready for AI. There is going to be displacements in the workforce. There are going to be educational requirements, and countries have to address those as they build these into their societies. And then lastly, in the international cooperation is so fundamental. I think that's why we're all here at IGF today. And there are a lot of different processes that are underway to allow international collaboration to happen, and being a part of that is important. I think some of the findings across DCO member states are interesting in the sense that it's a unique pairing of different types of nation states, and we see that it has a lot of varying levels of AI governance across it. It's not to be unexpected when you have both regionally diverse and economically diverse countries within a single group. And that's, I think, reflective of the case that we face globally. That feeds into the diverse definitions and approaches to AI, and it also feeds into the potential for further engagement and international cooperation, both within the DCO's membership itself, but also in events and engagements like the one we're doing. There's a view that we are building around the generic ethical considerations of AI, but part of our conversation today is to help us think about this and are we getting it right. And there are right now very limited recommendations and practical implications to address human rights in DCO member states. And so this tool and this exercise is part of creating that for DCO and potentially beyond. I'm going to walk through these ethical principles very quickly, and then I'm going to pass it to my colleague Matt to pick up the tool itself. But the ethical principles that govern this tool are sixfold. The first, dealing with accountability and oversight. We want to ensure there's clear responsibility for AI decision making, addressing those gaps in things like verification, audit trails, incident response. We'll want to look at transparency and accountability, as already discussed. Things that promote clarity in how you make these decisions is important. And you don't want the complexity to undermine a user's understanding. We've got fairness and non-discrimination as our third principle, protecting against bias, unfair treatment and outcomes, and mitigating demographic disparities in how these systems perform. Fourth will be privacy. We all care about our privacy, and I think we're all concerned about this as our uses of different technologies now feed the AI ecosystem. To make sure there are those personal safeguards in place and a respect for privacy rights. Fifth, around sustainability and environmental impact. I was on the panel right before this one in this room, and they talked about how AI is going to require the equivalent of another Japan in terms of energy use and consumption, and that's going to put a strain on resources, so we've got to address that. And ensure that the development of AI comports with environmental goals. And then lastly, it's got to be human-centered. It's got to be looking at social benefit and ensuring that it's meeting societal needs while respecting individuality and aligning these capabilities with those needs. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Matt. He can walk you through the tool itself in a little further detail, and then we'll pick up the exercise.
Hi everyone. So I'm Matt Sharp, a senior manager at Access Partnership. So the 6 principles are based on extensive research of frameworks around the world, which we try to distill into these 6 areas to focus on. And this is a brief description of the tool that we've developed, which is still in its prototype phase. But the idea is that this will be available online and publicly accessible for everyone. The tool provides a detailed risk questionnaire, which is different for both developers and deployers. And there are questions to ascertain both the severity and likelihood of risks related to human rights. Based on the way that the questions are answered, there will be an interactive radar graph, which basically helps the user prioritize their actions. And each risk area, an average score will be calculated for each risk area, and this will lead to actionable recommendations being given based on the specific way that the questions were answered. Okay, if you go to the next slide. Sorry. Yeah, and so the tool is designed to be comprehensive, practical, and interactive. It's a human rights first approach, which maps AI systems to universal human rights. It's designed to be very practical, so it accommodates various AI systems across diverse industries, and organizations will get comprehensive risk insights and practical guidance on how to mitigate risks related to human rights. Next slide. So our tool, there are a few other frameworks and tools related to R1. A lot of these are developed by national governments and tend to focus on their own national contexts. For example, the UAE and the New Zealand framework. A lot of them focus on verification of actions rather than risk assessments, and a few of the existing tools focus only on AI developers and not AI deployers as well. And generally ours is the one that's most focused on human rights. So we think this tool offers a unique contribution to advanced ethical AI. Next slide. Yeah. So I mean I've already talked about this, but basically the way that the tool will work, the workflow. So users will register on the website. They'll provide some information about their AI systems and their industries. They'll complete the questionnaire covering 6 risk categories. The questions will be different for developers and deployers, and then based on how the risks are assessed, they will see this risk radar chart, identifying priority areas for action, and they'll receive advice on targeted mitigation strategies. Yeah. Okay, so this is our framework that underlies the tool. Basically, the diagram shows the principles at the top, and underneath those are more specific risks related to those principles. So, for example, in the case of privacy, there's a focus on data protection and unauthorized collection and processing of sensitive information. Related to accountability and oversight, the risks there are insufficient involvement of humans and inadequate incident handling, for example. And then there's detailed recommendations below this, which are not, there's no one-to-one mapping between the principles and the recommendation areas. When a risk category is high risk, it'll quite often be the case that there'll be specific recommendations related to each of these risk areas. But of course, these cover data management, validation and testing of AI systems. The integration of stakeholder feedback is of course very important as well. Yeah. Okay, and then just to say that, so there are two distinct stakeholder groups in the AI lifecycle: the developers and deployers. Of course, they will receive slightly different questionnaires. So developers are of course focusing on the design, and the construction of AI systems. They need to predict AI risks in advance. They need to think about like technical architecture. Deployers, of course, are focused on the implementation of these AI systems, and for them, of course, the focus is a bit different. It's on operational vulnerabilities and actual impacts on users and stakeholders. Yeah. Okay, and I mean, this slide is perhaps a bit detailed, but just to say that for each of the recommendation categories, because of the different position in the AI lifecycle, there will be slightly different advice which is given to developers and deployers, but the 6 different recommendation categories are consistently used for both developers and deployers. Okay. So yeah, if we could, if you wouldn't mind just using the QR code to answer a couple quick questions. Yeah. Is Kevin around to do it? Yeah. Chris, you could just go to the breakout activity slide. Okay. So yeah, so once you've answered those 2 questions, we have a breakout activity which is designed to basically understand the logic of the AI ethics tool that we've developed. So Kevin, I think, will be handing out worksheets that you could fill in. There'll be different AI risk scenarios, and the idea here is to review the framework that we presented for the AI evaluator tool, AI ethics evaluator tool, and then identify 2 ethical risks related to each scenario, the scenario that you're given, and then do a risk scoring exercise where you score both the severity and likelihood of the risks you've identified. So you can pick like two of the principles that are relevant for your particular scenario. You score the severity and likelihood. There are definitions on the worksheets. You calculate a combined score, an impact score for each risk, and then you're able to rank them from most to least critical, and then you develop actionable recommendations. Just try and come up with 2 recommendations for the 2 risks for a developer. And this whole exercise should take 15 minutes.
Sorry to put you through this. We intended to make it as an interactive discussion, and we really wanted selfishly to get your inputs onto brainstorming on some of these scenarios. So I do apologize in advance to the organizer for mixing up the chairs, but I think we should convert how we are sitting into I think three breakout groups and have the discussions. Please move your chairs around, and let's go through this exercise so we can have more interactive discussion. So we are well within the time for this session. We have half an hour to go. So for 15 minutes, let's go through this exercise, and then we would love to hear from your thoughts onto this. Thank you.
And guys, I know this seems daunting. It is not. I promise. I did it myself last week. It's actually kind of fun, and it gives you a real sense of how to actually start putting yourself in the mindset of assessing AI risk. So we were thinking maybe this side of the room could be one group, and then maybe split this side of the room in 2. Those of you in the back, one group, and then those of you up front, here another. We've got these sheets that my colleague Kevin is going to start passing out. I think we'll hand out one set on this side, and then one set there, and one set here. And happy to go around and check in with you guys as we take this forward, and see how we can actually pull this together.